What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Well, this is the end. This is the end of our Christmas murder December. This is the last episode because it's going to be the end of December here soon, and we're going to be going into 2026. Which who the fuck knows what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know, man. On TikTok you can see those on, well, at least my TikTok, because I post on TikTok, and it's like, see your 2025 in review, year in review, right? And it was like on my coffee page that I do all the coffee stuff it's really crazy to watch the transition, because I was like in the beginning making all these giving recipes and doing stuff, to like the end where I'm showing my books that I'm reading, so it was like to watch that transition. And then on my other one, all Disney. All Disney.
Oh, well, yeah, we know that.
All Disney. And then I was like, well, shit. So then I made my I'll have to show you the one that I posted yesterday, because it's like the 2025 is coming to an end, and you're supposed to post like all, a bunch of your stuff. And it was like, well, this is my 2025. Unfortunately, 2026 will not be that fruitful for me. Sorry. I spent all my money that I possibly could on Disneyland this year, and I just don't think I'm going to be going back anytime soon unless Dad gets this other job. Then maybe we will. I don't know.
What's true?
I don't know. So this is the final episode of 2025 for Crime Bitches. The next time you hear us, it will be 2026. And hopefully 2026 is good to everybody.
Man, it's already a shit year.
It hasn't even started. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I turned 26, which means I got kicked off your insurance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I did do open enrollment, so it's already going to be applied as of January, but...
that's
like,
rough. And this is like the shittiest year to get kicked off your parents' insurance.
Kidding.
Well, actually, that's not true, because you get insurance through your work, I guess. So,
but it's the fact that there's more money coming out my paycheck.
Yeah.
And I've heard our insurance isn't nearly as good as what you guys have.
Actually, I don't know, because we get new insurance starting in January.
That's true.
So it could be really fucking terrible. I'm just predicting, because I am a pessimist, that it's going to be fucking terrible, and I'm going to be fighting for all the medication I have to keep on. That's all I can do. Anyways, so we're going to just get into who and what and where and why we're talking about what we're talking about this week. Because I don't know how long it's going to be, but I have like 8 pages. Well, it's actually 7 pages of complete research, because this story that I'm about to tell you, I was not expecting it to be what it was. Okay. So what are we talking about? Well, we are talking about December 24th, 1945. And before you
don't worry, she already fair warned me that even though it's an older one, I'm probably really going to like it.
Because it's a mystery. Okay. So this happened in Fayetteville, West Virginia. And there was a house fire that destroys the home of the Sodder family. 6 people survive, but 5 do not. Okay, that's what this is about. So we're going to give a little background on who the Sodders are first. So George Sodder, he was actually born Giorgio Sadu in Tulla, Sardinia, Italy in 1895. And he immigrated to the United States at the age of 13. Here's what's weird is he traveled here with his brother when he was 13 years old. They go through customs on Ellis Island, as you did back then. So it's like the early 1900s. And then his brother literally hops on a fucking boat back to Italy and leaves his 13-year-old brother George here.
He's like, bye, bitch.
He's like, peace, motherfucker.
That's
now,
weird.
For his entire life, Giorgio, who now, by the way, goes by the name of George, would never talk about why he left Italy. People would ask, oh, what made you come to the United States? Nothing. Like, he wouldn't explain, even to his family, like later in life, he never told them why he left Italy, which is strange to me. And this kind of, keep that in mind. So he began working when he, at a young age, he began working in the railroad system in Pennsylvania. And his original job was to carry water and other supplies to the workers. So my guess is he was probably fairly young when he got that job, because he literally would like bring them things to like feed them, and as the workers on the railroad were actually working. So I don't think he was quite old enough to actually have a job working on the railroad, but he got a job. I mean, hello, he was dropped off here when he's 13. So, and then a few years after being with the railroad for a while, he actually ends up becoming a driver in Smithers, West Virginia. And I actually think he was a driver for a truck, not the trains. I don't think it was trains. I think they just said driver though. But the reason I think he was a driver for a truck was because he goes on to start his own trucking company. So
that would make sense.
To me, that makes sense. Now, he initially starts by hauling things like dirt to and from construction sites. So his literal job was to bring his truck, fill it up with dirt, drop it off at a construction site, or vice versa. Grab the dirt, go drop it off at a dump site. And then he ends up progressing this to haul things like coal that had been mined. So he starts upping his game. And that means that he's contracted to these people. Like he's making some money. At some point in his life, he meets a woman named Jenny Cipriani. Now, she is a storekeeper's daughter in Smithers, and she also had immigrated from Italy to the United States as a child. And the two of them get married in 1922. They end up settling in a house in Fayetteville, West Virginia. And this was in an area that had a lot of Italian immigrants already. So they kind of found a big 2-story home in a neighborhood and area where a lot of Italian immigrants were. So it was kind of like, it was like the place to be. Now, in 1923, they have their first child, and George's business is doing super well at this time. The couple has actually become a very well-respected middle-class family. Neighbors said like they were like the middle-class family, like that you wanted to know the Sodders. That's how it was. George was also very outspoken about things. He was not quiet. He did not keep his opinion to himself. If he had an opinion, he absolutely would tell you. He also had very strong opinions about things, and he was not afraid to express those opinions, even if they ruffled feathers or if people disagreed. And this would sometimes lead to some problems with the people in the neighborhood and with people that he worked with. So, for example, he had a very strong opposition of the Italian dictator at the time, Benito Mussolini, and he would absolutely talk about how much he did not like him. Because of him not liking Mussolini, he would actually get into arguments with other people within the community that they all seemingly got along in, to the point where they would stop talking to each other, and it would lead to alienation. So either he would be alienated from certain groups, or he would just stop talking to people who didn't agree with him. It sounds very reminiscent of our world today.
Yeah, no kidding.
But that was how it was. Now, in 1942, the Sodders have their last child, which makes their family a total of 10 children by this time. And then plus them, so they are a family of 12. And you know what? I didn't even bat an eye at that because my dad has 12 siblings.
That's true. Back
like
then,
my
that
dad
was
has
popular.
12. Yeah, my dad has 12 siblings, and then plus his parents they were a family of 14. So I was like, 10. Okay, cool. Now at this time, their second oldest, so when their youngest was born, their second oldest child, Joe, who was 17, had already left home and was serving in the military. So again, and also, by the way, my mom's family, my mom was 18 when her youngest sister was born. She's a family of 8 siblings. So my family tree has a boatload of family members. So it's not a shock to me when I see the older families. Some people think it's crazy. I'm just kind of like, all I think of is I had 2 kids. And all I think of is I don't think I could have had 10, because if I would have had 10 kids, I'd still have young kids. Not young, but I'd still have kids like at least in school right now. And no, thank you. No, thank you. I like the life I have right now. No, thank you. Now, the following year, so after their youngest child was born in 1942, that following year, Mussolini is actually executed. And I don't know anything about Mussolini. I don't know if he was good, bad. I just know he was supposedly a dictator of Italy at some point, and he was executed. I don't even know if he was killed in Italy or if he was killed somewhere else, but he was killed. And some of George's expressions about him left people with we'll just say like a bad taste in their mouth for George, because it was like, okay, you hated that guy, and then they're sad that he died, and he's like, don't give a shit, So in October of 1945, there was an insurance salesman who shows up at George and Jenny's home. And this insurance salesman wants George to buy life insurance for his family. Now, George is like, no, I'm good. Like, we don't need life insurance. And the guy's pushing it. And George's like, nope, I'm good. Like, nope, I'm good. And it ends up leading to an argument. And
that's because people push and push.
Yeah.
Like, that's still to this day.
So as the salesman is pissed off, getting up, getting ready to leave the home, he turns and looks at George and says that his house is going to go up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed for the dirty remarks that you have been saying about Mussolini. So that's what this insurance salesman tells him before he leaves his house.
The fuck?
See? So already it's like it had apparently gone around the neighborhood, the things that he had said, and this insurance salesman who did not know George, that was his remark to him. Another time, there was a man who was looking for work. Like he was going door to door, knocking on the door like, hey, do you have any work for me to do? So he knocks on George's door and he basically is like, hey, do you need me to do some work at your house? And George is like, no, I think we're good. Like everything's fine. And this man takes it upon himself to just take a little peek-see around the house just to see if there's anything he can find that they might need him to do. And he comes back to George and he says, you have a pair of fuse boxes that are literally going to cause a fire to your house someday. And now, you see, George is very confused by this because George had just recently had the whole entire house rewired, the electricity rewired in this house because they had bought an electric stove. So they had to redo the electricity. And before they got the stove plugged in, he had the electric company come out and they came and they looked at the fuse boxes and the electricity and they gave him the green light and said, yeah, everything's exactly now.
And they definitely wouldn't have done that.
Correct. So he was very confused as to why somebody would tell him this. Okay. But he tells the guy like, no, I'm good. Like, goodbye. Now, a few weeks before Christmas, some of George's older sons had said that they saw a car that was parked along the main highway of the road and that there were some people in this car. And they noticed that the people in the car seemed to be watching the younger Sodder children like very intently. And it kind of made them uncomfortable. So remember all these things that I have said. Because on December 24th, 1945, the Sodder family is at home celebrating Christmas Eve with 9 of their 10 children. One of the children could not make it. It was one of the adult children. 1 a.m., a fire starts in their home. George, Jenny, and 4 of the children make it out of the house. When they get out in the front yard, George actually looks around and realizes that he's got 5 children that are not out the house. So he breaks a window and runs back into the home. He cuts his arm in the process and he's like frantically looking through his house. Now, this is a 2-story house. So he's on the bottom floor. And he can't really see anything because there's a shit ton of smoke and fire. By the time he's actually in the house for the second time, you know what I thought of, by the way? Side note, when I was reading.
This Is Us?
Yes. I was like,
knew it.
why is this like, this is, did they get their fire inspiration from the Sodder family? By this time, the whole entire downstairs had been taken over by fire. This included the living and dining rooms, the kitchen, the office, and George and Jenny's bedroom, which were all on the bottom floor. And they had all been engulfed in flames. Now, he was trying to figure out who would be where in the house. Because, again, this was on Christmas Eve. And you have to realize that Jenny and George went to bed before all their children did on Christmas Eve. So he didn't.
Well, that's weird.
Well, they're adults. A lot of them are adults. You know, you got like 20, 23 all the way. I mean, you've got all the way down to 8, but when you have 23 and 22 and 18 and these people, if they want to stay up older or stay up later with their siblings,
yeah,
and they live there. Some of them live there, and so it's like they just take care when the parents go to bed, right? It's like not. I mean, your brother tucks me in every night.
Oh my God.
Literally comes into my room. I go and lay down. Your dad and I lay down. We'll be reading, and then we have the dogs, and we'll say, "Hey, come get Sophie." So he comes over to get Sophie. He turns off our lights, says goodnight, and shuts our door every single night.
Wow.
And then he stays up till like 3:00 in the morning. So it's like that.
Not me.
So it's like that. But there's also other kids involved. But when you have a big family like that, that's just what you do. So he's trying to figure out who would be where in the house. And he knew that 2-year-old Sylvia, who slept in their bedroom, was safe because they grabbed her before they left. That's their youngest child. He also knows that 17-year-old Marion, 23-year-old John, and 16-year-old George Jr. are all safe outside as well. Then he's able to piece together that the rest of his children, which is 14-year-old Maurice, 12-year-old Martha, 9-year-old Louis, 8-year-old Jenny, and 5-year-old Betty are still somewhere in the house. But he realizes that if that's who's missing, they're probably upstairs in their bedrooms. So he cannot get upstairs because of the fire. So he runs back outside, and now his plan is he's going to take this ladder that he always has propped up against his house, and he's just going to climb up the ladder, break the windows, wake the children, take them out. However, the ladder he always has propped against his house is gone. He cannot find it. So then he's racking his brain and decides, okay, I'm going to take one of my trucks. He has 2 work trucks because remember, he owns a trucking company. I'm going to pull the truck up to the house. I'm going to climb on top of the truck. I'm going to break the window. I'm going to get the kids out. So he goes to the trucks and he starts the one, tries to start the one, and it doesn't start. So he goes to the second truck, goes to start it, also does not start. He cannot start either of his trucks. So now he can't move the trucks over there. Now, during this time, his daughter Marion had actually also run to the neighbor's home to call for help, because they tried to call 911 from their home before they ran out, because when the fire was first discovered, it was in one area. And so they tried and they had no phone, like no way to call. And so Marion runs to the neighbors and she tries to call for help. And the problem is at this time in the 1940s, in 1945, at least in this town, you got an operator, right? So you'd pick up the phone, you'd be like, operator, I need blah, 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 right? Well, there was no operator. And I almost think it's because it was Christmas Eve and the operator was probably like,
fuck this.
Yeah. Or either that or they were like having like hanging out because it's Christmas Eve, you know? So she tries, there's no operator. There's also a neighbor who lives down the street who actually saw the house on fire and goes inside of their home, tries to call, and there is no operator also for them. So that neighbor, brilliant neighbor, jumps in their car and drives into town, which is 2 miles away. Just 2 miles up the road. They jump in and they drive 2 miles to find the fire chief. They must have gone to the fire chief's home, and they literally tell the fire chief, like, there is a house fire here. You need to go. So the chief's like, okay, sound the alarms. Well, the alarms in their town in 1945 is a phone tree.
Holy fucking hell.
So he starts the phone tree. He calls firefighter 1. If you don't know what a phone tree is, then firefighter 1 calls firefighter 2. Firefighter 2 calls firefighter 3 until they've called them all. Even though the fire department is only 2.5 miles away from the Sodder's home, the firefighters do not show up to the Sodder home until 8 a.m. Their house lit on fire at 1 a.m. It took them 7 hours to get the firefighters fully assembled and to their home. That was 2 miles away. By the time the fire department shows up, the Sodder home is completely destroyed and basically nothing but ash and like leftovers. Now, the assumption from that point on is that the 5 children were dead and that they had died inside the home because clearly they didn't get out. So they tell the fire department and the police, who are both there at this point, we are 5 children. We have 5 children missing. And so they water down, the smoldering fucking ashes and start walking through looking for bodies. And they found none. No bodies. No human remains. No bones. Nothing. Now, it was suggested by the police chief that the fire must have been hot enough that it had actually cremated the bodies. Now, a state police inspector did look over the scene and said that the fire was started due to faulty wiring. Now, George also ends up eventually covering the basement of the home with 5 feet of dirt because he wants to turn it into a memorial for his children at this point. So he has covered this with 5 feet after they did their investigations. And they planted flowers and all the stuff. They chose not to rebuild. They wanted to remember their children. The coroner's office actually issued 5 death certificates before New Year's. So they literally boom, 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 boom. The cause of death that was put on the death certificates was fire or suffocation. However, the Sodder family really did not believe that their children had been in that house when it burned down. Marion said, so Marion, if you remember, is the daughter. She said that during the fire, I kept watching the windows, but I never saw even one of the children. I never smelled burning flesh. They say that you can smell burning flesh miles away, but I never did, which is a good point. If you have 5 children, 5 people, one of them 14 years old, if you have 5 people burning in a house.
Or even like the screams and shit. Like, that's not to be traumatizing.
To be fair, no, like, I thought the same thing. Like you didn't.
It would be obvious.
And when he went back into the house, he was yelling for the kids. And you would think, because the fire was started downstairs. So those kids.
Well, but you're also telling me that none of those people that made it out of the house were upstairs. I guarantee at least one was probably upstairs and ran downstairs and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would have. I'm assuming, because I know if it was me, you have a 2-story house.
Yeah.
I lived in the basement. Mm-hmm. But even if I lived up here, like if the basement, or if the fire started in the basement and I was up here, obviously I'm knocking on your guys' doors until you get out the house. And I'm only assuming that's what they did
Well, and if they had enough time, right? I did read one report where it said that the older brother said that he tried to wake up the kids, but they wouldn't come out. Now, I don't know.
Which would make sense.
I don't know. There. Well, I don't know if he knocked. I'm assuming he just knocked on the doors. I'm assuming he didn't like physically go in and try to wake them. I'm assuming he was screaming. And again, they were screaming from the minute the fire started. The family was yelling for all of the kids because they were trying to get everybody out of the house. Now, Jenny's recollection of this time goes a little something like this. Now, Jenny is his wife. She had been woken up at about midnight, between midnight and 12:30, by a phone call. Now, this phone call was a woman who was calling, and she was asking for somebody by a strange name that Jenny had never heard. And Jenny tells her, like, you have the wrong phone number. And then she hears clinking glasses, and then the lady laughs, and she had described the laugh as like a maniacal laugh, and then hung up the phone. She then notices, as she's standing wherever their phone was, which I'm assuming was maybe in the kitchen, like a lot of times kitchen or living room or whatever. And she realizes that all of the lights are left on in the home downstairs. The front door is unlocked and all of the curtains are still open, which was something that her children always did before they went to bed, if the parents went to bed before them. So she said, like, my children would not have left all the lights on and the window curtains completely open. Door unlocked, maybe because back then nobody locked their doors, but they wouldn't have done those two things. They would have closed the curtains, they would turn off the lights, and they would have gone to bed. She also sees that Marion is sleeping on the couch in the living room. So she thought it was really strange because she was like, that's so weird, because like, what? Marion would have at least, whatever. So she was like, whatever. So she closes the curtains, turns off the lights. She goes and lays back down. She starts to barely fall asleep when she hears a really loud bang on her roof, and then something that she can only describe as almost like a rolling noise, which like in everybody else's mind is like Santa's here because it's Christmas Eve. Like, what's up? Now, she kind of like listens for a minute, hears nothing else, and she's like, okay. And so she kind of starts to drift back to sleep. Then about a half an hour later, heavy smoke starts to trail into the bedroom, which is what wakes her up. She starts to smell the smoke. She jumps up. She runs out. She sees that the whole entire office, George's whole entire office, is on fire. She runs in, wakes up George, grabs the baby, starts screaming in the house. This is how it goes. Jenny said that she could not understand how 5 children being burned in a house in a fire could leave nothing behind. No flesh, no bones, no nothing. Thing. So she starts experimenting on her own. She gets chicken bones, beef joints, pork chop bones, and she literally lights them on fire, maybe in a pot, in a thing, whatever, and lets them burn. And everything she tried, she was always left with a pile of bones. So she also noted that in their home, after it burned down, you could still see the appliances, like the toaster. You could still see that there was a toaster there. So how did it completely cremate 5 children, but it didn't obliterate the fucking appliances? Okay, this is what she's asking.
Yeah, those appliances back then, though, were made out of like,
I mean, I guess, but you stuff. Would, yeah. A person that worked at a crematorium, she actually talked to somebody at a crematorium about it and was just kind of like, tell me what it takes to cremate bodies. To which this person says, well, we put the body in, we cremate it. It doesn't take very long to cremate the body. However, we let the bones sit for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees for the body or for the bones to turn to dust, basically. 2 hours at 2,000 degrees. The report, their house burned down in 45 minutes. And you know damn well that shit was not 2,000 degrees. Because also there's outdoor elements. It's cold. It's winter. It's fucking, there's snow on the ground. That shit was not 2,000. And if it was 2,000 degrees, how the fuck did they stand in the front yard and watch their house burn down? It was not 2,000 degrees, period. So no, their bones, that's not possible at that point. So it gets even more weird because a telephone repairman comes out to the house after the house is burned down. And he tells the Sodders that, hey, I was looking at your phone lines and they were not burned. They were cut. So again, none of this is making sense. It was also discovered that, they were told by the police officer that their house burned down due to faulty wiring. But why is it, if it was faulty wiring, truthfully, if it's an electrical fire, your electricity would be out the minute your fucking electrical boxes catch on fire. Right. Okay. So why is it that the downstairs light were on in the house while it was burning? Not only the Sodders said that, but all the neighbors. So it was not an electrical fire because the electricity was on downstairs. One witness actually came forward and claimed that they had seen a man who was taking a block and tackle from George's vehicles. And this was something that would have actually stopped the car from starting if he did really steal those. So they do question this man, and the man does plead guilty and says, yep, I did. But I didn't know about the fires. But I absolutely did do that, but I didn't know about the fires.
I mean, I can kind of believe that.
I do. I can believe that too. I'm not, sure.
Like, I can actually believe that.
I believe it. On one occasion, the family had gone back. So this is after the snow had melted. This was later. They'd already done some of the planting. They were going back to the property to go visit, like have a visit with the property. And their youngest child found a hard rubber object in the yard, like apparently after the snow had melted. So like whatever. Now, as they're sitting there looking at this hard object, Jenny is telling her family like, hey, you know what's really weird is the night of the fire, I heard this really weird sound and it sounded like a rolling sound. And so she brings this hard object to her husband, and her husband is looking at it and he's like, you know what that looks like to me? And she's like, what? And he's like, that looks like a napalm pineapple bomb, which they used in the war.
What the fuck?
Which also led them to believe what they've always thought, that the house fire actually started on the roof. That's actually what the Sodders have always thought.
Yeah, but a bomb? You would know that
napalm bomb. I think it's a fire bomb. I don't think it's like a bomb. I don't think it's like an explosion. I was
like, you'd fucking know.
No, I think it's like pineapple bomb. I don't know what that is. So there were also many claims of sightings of the children after the fire. So one woman said that she was watching the fire on the night that it was burning down. She was standing on the road watching it, and she saw this car driving by, and she said that she actually saw a couple of kids that looked very much like the Sodder children watching out the window as they were driving away in this car. Another woman was said to have been at a rest stop, and she said, I actually fed those children breakfast. She said this rest stop was at between Fayetteville and Charleston. And you'll get it because you just told me the other day that you ate at a fucking restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Restaurants and gas stations. Hell yeah.
And that's what it was. And she said, no, those kids came in with a couple with a couple of people, and I fed them breakfast. And then she also said that she saw a car in the parking lot with Florida license plates also. Now, the Sodders did end up hiring a private investigator because at this point, they're not getting help from any of the police department because they are literally like, nope, your children died. Nobody wants to help them. So the private investigator actually found out that, you remember that insurance salesman that got pissed off at George for not wanting to buy life insurance?
Yeah.
Well, he just weirdly enough happened to be on the jury of people who ruled the fire an accident. Isn't that a little weird? He also, the PI also found out that supposedly, even though there were no reports of bodies being found, there was supposedly a heart found at some point when they were looking. and the heart was put in a box and it was buried. Why the fuck? I have no idea. And this was by like the police chief, supposedly, or the police officer, the police inspector that was like running the whole thing, supposedly found a heart, put it in a box and buried it. So they actually go and confront Morris, and they find out that he says, well, actually, I did do that.
I'm assuming Morris is the cop.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, actually, I did do that, and I'll show you where it's buried. So he brings them to where this box is buried. He unburies it, and sure enough, there is a fucking, what looks to be a heart in this box. And so they take the contents of the box, and they bring it to a coroner, and they say, can you tell us what this is? And he verifies that it sure as hell is, in fact, beef liver. And he says, also, this beef liver is fresh and it has never been exposed to fire. Like, why the fuck? Why, Morris? Why are you doing that? Well, Morris tells why. Morris actually admits that he created this fabrication of finding a heart to try to make the Sodders be satisfied that their children had died in the fire. First of all,
satisfied,
asshole. Second of all, what the fuck? And then they did do an excavation of the property. So he ends up having he tried to get the FBI involved because he was very much like, something's wrong. They said, we'd love to help you, but we can't just voluntarily help you. Like, if your city police officers want our assistance, they have to request it. So he asked the police, and they're like, no, your children died in the fire. Well, they do end up excavating the land after a while, and they do find 4 vertebrae in the dirt. Now they take this vertebrae to like a coroner type person, and they're looking at it, and they said, well, this is definitely vertebrae from somebody that is aged between older than 16 but under the age of 21, because of the specific vertebrae weren't fused together a specific way or something. There was something that they knew. And weirdly enough, the oldest child that was supposedly killed was 14. So that wouldn't work anyways. And we didn't have DNA in 1945, so we,
But also, who the fuck's bones are those?
I know. Well, and here's the other part. The coroner said, also, these vertebrae do not look like they've been in a fire. So the thought process is that somebody went and dropped these 4 vertebrae at some point, again, to try to make the Sodders think that their children had died. But again, whose vertebrae are they? Because they are definitely human. They were human vertebrae that belonged to a boy. That is what they were able to find out. Now, at one point, George also sees a magazine photo that has a group of a young, like, ballerina dance school in this magazine. And he swears when he sees it that his daughter is in this picture. And he goes to New York, where this is taken, and he demands to see the girl that was in the photo. He demands to see her. He demands to the school. He wants to talk to the parents. He wants them to let him see this child. Obviously, they never do. Listen, I wouldn't either. If
I was
some
going
man
to say, to be fair,
yeah,
even if it is his daughter, to be fair, I wouldn't
either. Never. Now, the Sodders do end up creating a missing persons flyers and stuff. They have a reward for $5,000, and they even put up a billboard that had their 5 children's pictures, offering a reward, looking for what's happened to their 5 kids. Then another report comes in from a woman named Ida Crutchfield. Now, Ida says that she ran a hotel in West Virginia, and she claimed that she had seen the children a week after the fire. She said, and I quote, "I do not remember the exact date. The children came in around midnight with 2 men and 2 women, and all of them appeared to be of Italian extraction."
Extraction?
That was literally what she said.
What the fuck?
Not like Italian descent or extraction.
Or just Italian.
Right? She said that when she attempted to speak with the children, one of the men looked at me in a hostile manner. He turned around and began talking rapidly in Italian. Immediately, the whole party stopped talking to me, and then she said they left early the next morning. However, the police were not wanting to take her statement as credible because she told them that she first saw the pictures of the Sodder children 2 years after the fire. But she waited until 5 years after the fire to come forward with the information. Yeah, I don't know why. And so they were like, what the fuck? Okay, lady. So they're not sure if
To be fair, I also would I kind of am on board with the cops for that.
Yeah,
one,
I agree. I mean, why you take it? Why you waiting 5 years? Because you want the $5,000 because you need it now. Now, George and Jenny never stopped looking for their children. Now, over the years, they continued to get sighting claims, and they would literally look into each and every one. And sighting claims is in people would literally call them or message them or send them something by the mail that says like, hey, we think this is your child. They did get one picture, just a picture in the mail. And it literally looked like an older version. This is years later. Looked like an older version of Louis. His features were all the same. It looks like what you'd think Louis would look like when he was older. And when you flipped it over on the back, it said Louis Sodder. And then it said, I love my brother Frankie. And then it had a bunch of weird like letters and numbers. Okay. And they got this in the mail with no return address, nothing. And so they did originally they thought about going to the police with this information, but they chose not to. And I'll explain why in a minute. But what they did do is they added that updated picture to the billboards and to the flyers saying that this might be what he looks like. George Sodder ends up dying in 1969 and never knew what happened to his children. Jenny went on and continued to mourn the loss of her children. She wore black for the rest of her life. And she continued to try and find out what happened to them. She continued to look into every sighting claim. She continued to try to find answers. Her family also helped her. Jenny then goes on and dies in 1989. And it was at this time that the family finally took down the billboard of their missing siblings. The billboard went up in the 1950s. So they kept that billboard up for almost 39 years.
Damn.
Now, the Sodder children, the ones that survived, and their spouses and their children continued to look into the case of their missing siblings. They ended up theorizing that this is what they actually think makes the most sense as to what has happened. They theorized that the Sicilian mafia from Italy had been trying to extort money from George. And the children may have been taken by someone who knew that fire was going to happen and possibly went to the children and said, you need to come with me to keep them alive, and basically kidnapped them and maybe even took them back to Italy. They also believe that if the children had survived, so if this is what they really think has happened, that the reason why they've never actually reached out, because you got to remember, one of them was 14 years old. Like, he's going to know that he isn't with his family.
Right.
So I
already know. One, they're going to tell you that your family's dead. And at that time, technology's not nearly where it's at nowadays.
True.
Or if they're young enough, like the younger ones, they probably got brainwashed enough to maybe not remember that. But for like the 14-year-old, I'm sure it's the threat of either A, your family's dead, or B, we can kill your family.
Or C, they didn't want their family in trouble, so they chose not to reach out to them. Because you got to remember, this house fire was supposed to kill the family. So if they were taken and they knew that they were taken, whether it was because they were being treated great or not, they didn't want to reach out because it would put the family in danger. And all of the family, not just George, all of the family would be in danger. That was why they didn't go to the police with the updated photo. And this is why this theory has come about, because when that photo came, George was still alive. And they chose not to go to the police because they thought, well, if the Italian mafia, the Sicilian mafia is really after us, we don't want them to know that Louis has contacted us with an updated photo. So they didn't want it to be looked into. So instead, they just put the picture up. Then they don't know. Nobody knows anything. But on the back, like I said, it said the name and all this stuff. And so it was like they didn't want to put him in danger either. That was what the conclusion that they had come up with. Now, Sylvia Sodder Paxton, who was the youngest child, she actually dies in 2021. And her daughter said, she promised my grandparents that she would not let the story die and that she would do everything she could. So, that's it. What do you think? Did they die in the fire? Did the fire get hot enough for it to cremate them? Because the one thing I will say is there have been current internet sleuths that have really gone down like a rabbit hole with this. And some of them have pointed out that because of the industry that George was in, he did have big like cans of gasoline in his garage. And they were saying that had that fire would have accelerated very rapidly with gasoline, and it would have burned a lot hotter than a normal fire. So is that a possibility? Were they kidnapped? What happened? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it stems from why he left Italy.
I agree. I totally agree.
I think, because I don't think it was his family thing. I don't think it was like his family did something bad and that's why they sent him away. Or maybe they did.
No, I agree.
Or maybe they did and they sent him away and that's why the brother left to protect him, to keep him away from that shit. So something of some sorts in Italy happened, whether it be directly with him, or because that would also make sense why you'd be hush hush and wouldn't say anything. If your family sent you away to protect yourself,
that
and
makes
you changed
total
your
sense.
name. Exactly. So I'm less believing that like he did something, and I'm more believing
I think he saw something he wasn't supposed to see.
I think he saw something he wasn't supposed to, or some shit went down with his family, and so to get him the fuck out, they just said, okay, they told the brother like go, and then I don't know why
the
brother,
else would you leave a 13-year-old by himself in the United States?
Right.
By the way, in the early 1900s, when, if y'all don't know your history, when Italians and Polish people and Irish people were treated fucking terribly when they came into Ellis Island, and they were all like, they were shoved into little corners of the area. And so it's like, why would you put a 13-year-old through that?
Right.
Unless it's life-threatening.
So I think, like I said, I don't even necessarily think he did anything bad.
No, I don't either.
Because even if he saw something he shouldn't have, that's not a bad thing.
No, he sounded like a stand-up fucking guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, I don't think I know you said there wasn't any theories or anything, but I don't think he was involved in that sense at all. But I think some shit went down in Italy. He got shipped over here. And because he decided not to keep his opinions to himself, especially about the Italian...
Mussolini.
Yeah, especially about Mussolini. I think that maybe was like, maybe word got around type situation, because there's other Italians.
I agree.
So I think maybe word got around. Somebody essentially in a way reported it back somehow to Italy, or maybe they amongst themselves were like, no, fuck this guy. Or maybe they found out who he really was. And so what doesn't make sense to me though is why save just the 5 children. So that's where I'm confused.
Well, they were the youngest.
Right, but was it, so hypothetically, let's say they were all upstairs, right? Was it one of those, everybody went out the front door, somebody said, follow me, come out the back door, and then they got kidnapped? Were they even in the home?
I don't think they were in the home.
Started, like, did they get kidnapped?
I'll be honest with you. I'll be very honest with you. I think, okay, right away, I'm right there with you. I actually agree with you on all of that. I think it absolutely stems from Italy. I do think that there's a good chance it had something to do with the Sicilian mafia, or the fact that people hated him so much for his views on Mussolini. Because what we all need to understand also is in our world,
have a couple different threats and then have this shit happen.
Well, and in our world that we live in today, and also back in the day, y'all are crazy if you don't think that the fucking Italian mafia has people that live here on a daily basis.
Y'all are crazy if you don't think any mafia.
Yeah, the mob connections and stuff, they have people. Like, there's people. But the ones that are specifically like Italian mafia, they have people here. And you know what? More power to you. But
I mean, I'll gladly join.
But
I'm Italian, just throwing that out there.
If they figured out who he was, he's already ruffling feathers with his views about Mussolini, and then they realize who he is, now it's like, okay, we're going to go after this guy. Fine, okay. I think that somebody who knew the family also knew that this fire was going to happen, and they saved the younger kids.
Well, I think the fire was a setup through and through. I don't think it accidentally happened.
No, I do too. I actually almost wonder if the insurance salesman was there to kind of case out the house to see what it looked like, to figure out how they were going to take him out. That's my personal opinion. Because it was like, that's just how I feel. But I mean, it could, then the one guy with your fuse boxes are going to light on fire.
Another part.
To me, I'm like, there was too many people threatening that his house was going to blow up, basically.
Well, and there's another part of me that doesn't necessarily think, because like I said, I still don't I will never understand why. First of all, I don't think that they burned in the fire. Let me
no,
there's period
it doesn't
blank,
make there's
they did not burn in the fire.
I totally agree.
You cannot convince me
Nope.
otherwise.
There's nothing. There's not even a single tiny thing that would show to me. No, they were not in that house when it burned.
They got kidnapped or they entrusted somebody.
No, I think that they got kidnapped.
Because think about it, Italian to Italian, maybe they're like, hey,
that's
your
what
dad,
I'm
come with us,
what I'm
blah,
saying.
Blah, blah.
No, what I'm saying is, and actually family members have said this too. They said they actually think...
Shit, Italians? You could probably look at them and say, I'm your fourth fucking cousin, and they're going to understand.
No, they said they think that somebody who knew about this, so meaning somebody who probably also had connections to the plan, whether it was mafia or whatever, and they said that they went into the house, they think that night before the fire started, and basically said, if you want to live, you have to come with us and we will save you, and took them. And the reason they took the younger kids, think about this for 1 second, they're not taking George. And by the way, George did say at one point, so I do think there is something in Italy, because he said at one point, he said, if it's the mafia coming after me, he said this as an older man. If it was the mafia coming after me, why didn't they just come after me? Why did they have to come after my children? And I'm because that's what they do.
Yeah, they're going to make sure that
that's what they do.
Live a terrible life. And that nowadays,
well, they were trying to kill, they were going to kill all of them, minus those kids. And here's why. Because you think about it. If you try to take the baby is in the room with the parents. You're not taking that you're not taking the 2-year-old. If you try to take if you were to try to take the 17-year-old, 23-year-old, or 16-year-old, let's just put it this way, 17-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever. If you're doing that, they're all going to try to fight your ass. Well, maybe not, but you really think about it. Do you think you're going to be able to walk into a fucking house that's about to be like lit on fire and be like, hey, come with us if you want to live? No, you're not. They're adults, basically. They're going to try to get the rest of their family. Right. But if you go to a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old and say, hey, you guys need to come with us because there's something dangerous is happening, trust us, you might be more apt to trust them. Mm-hmm. And so not only that, but you said it earlier, it's a lot easier to mold young minds than it is people who already have their minds made up of the world, right? So in my mind, that's why they did it. But because I think whoever...
Well, because even then I was thinking about it, you just saying that for the 14-year-old, like we were talking about. Mm-hmm. It probably wasn't your family is alive, but we can hurt them. It was probably you don't have a family left. Your family all burned in that fire.
Yeah, and that's...
You have nothing.
Exactly. And the thing is, that also tells me that whoever the person was that did this probably knew the plan but didn't want them to die. Mm-hmm. And so went in, which also means that person was also running probably from the mafia at that point and was probably dispersing the children throughout the world, which is why there's so many different sightings in different states and whatever. So it is, like I said, even though it was from the 1940s, tell me this shit's not fucking bizarre. And I genuinely was like, I didn't expect it, to be honest with you. When I saw this as a case, it was like, oh, one case that, happened on New Year's is a Sodder family, and it's the 5 children that disappeared. I swear to God, I thought it was going to be the parents were like murdered them. That was the thought. Like, I thought it was going to be the house burned down, 5 kids did not make it out, but the parents killed them. Like, that's what I thought it was going to be. This was so not what I thought it was going to be.
It's like a Kyron Horman situation.
It's so, yeah. And it's like,
not literally, but
no, because he wasn't taken by the mafia. But
but he showed up one place, disappeared the next.
But to think that this is mafia related, I totally buy that. Well, especially for the 1940s. This is how the mafia operated back then. I'm sure they still operate like that now. But specifically, this type of stuff is exactly what they would have done if they were trying to get rid of somebody, and they would try to get rid of like a whole ass family.
Well, and what's shitty is even more than likely is dead now because
2. She was 2. Oh, you mean the 5-year-old? Oh, yeah, 100%.
Well, because I just looked it up, and if you did 2025 minus 1940, that's 85 years old.
No, the youngest one, one that was 2 years old when the fire happened, she died in 2021. So most likely none of them.
Well, that's what
alive.
I'm saying. I'm saying if they're alive, they're going to be so old. They
would know. Well, and then even
I'm not trying to be rude, but what's the point?
Well, and even the children, so the grandchildren, but the children of the children, right? Mm-hmm. They had even come out and said, at this point,
Well, they're not going to know who the rest of the family is.
We can still talk about it. We can keep the story alive, but we're never going to have answers because everybody who knew what would have happened were probably my grandparents' age, and they're not around anymore. And they're right. They're right. We'll never know.
Even then, the people who did the crime.
That's what she's. No, that's what they're saying. That's exactly what they're saying is the people who did this crime were probably the same age as George and Jenny, which would have been their grandparents.
And this is terrible.
So
this is terrible of me to say. This is terrible for me to say. But also, like, I'm thinking about it, and let's say this was my family. I don't know who those people are. And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like it'd be hard for me to keep the story alive when, one, knowing that you're probably not alive anyways. So what's kind of the point? But two, I don't even know you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Don't even lie right now, because if this was our family, it'd be so fucking interesting. I would never stop researching this
shit.
It
should not be the word that I use for it.
That was terrible to say. I'm sorry, Sodder family. I don't mean it's fun, because it's not
fun. It's terrible.
But I'd be so interested in it. I'd be researching the shit out of this shit.
And if you're with the family, you're probably more connected, than other things. But regardless,
yes.
At the end of the day, those 5 kids did not die in that fire. The whole entire thing was orchestrated. And at the end of the day, I don't know what he did. And I don't even think he did anything wrong. But there's a reason why he got pushed to Italy. And I think if it wouldn't have been, honestly, there's a part of me that wonders if he wouldn't have been so openly talkative about his feelings of Mussolini. I don't think I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but I don't think any of this would have happened.
Well,
unless somebody knew who he really was.
Or unless it's not mafia related at all, but instead it's the Mussolini people.
That's true.
That would be the other thing, is after Mussolini was executed.
Regardless, it's tied to the Italians.
I totally think it is. I think it the whole thing is.
And I can say that because
I was
Italian.
like, I'm not Italian, bitch. I'm Polish.
I can.
I'm Polish and German, motherfucker.
And that, it just sucks for him.
And Irish.
But the fact that he commented about the mafia thing,
that's me too.
Because nobody else said anything mafia related.
As a straight up adult, he started talking about mafia shit, and I'm like,
And again, why would you leave your 13-year-old brother by himself unless there was
and
some
not only
shit
by
going
himself,
down?
but you get him checked into Ellis Island. You yourself get checked into Ellis Island, then you hop on the next boat out and leave your brother. Mm-hmm. It was literally like you were there to deliver him, and that was
Think about it. That's a way to protect you. You say you check into Ellis Island. He probably went somewhere. He probably didn't even go back home. He probably went somewhere else.
Yeah, you're right. Because he didn't talk, I don't think.
How fucking wild would it be, though, if the brother was like the one that did all of it?
He became the leader of the mafia and then went after his brother.
That's what I'm saying.
Damn.
Pissed him off enough.
Anyways, that was the story of the Sodder family murders. I feel like that was a good one to go out on. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah. I told you it was older,
that was a pretty good one. I've got so many different.
It makes you think.
Listen, it's a very far stretch, but now I'm sitting there like, okay, but if it was the brother,
I'm saying
he would know.
I'm saying, man,
they might know who he is.
There is so much that goes through my brain with it that I was like, oh yeah, this is a good way to end the year, and this is a good way to end our December Christmas murders. It's not a good way because it's never good, but you know what I'm saying. It was a good ending to our thing. Anyways, thank you very much for listening to us. And as always, we appreciate every single one of you who have been listening to us and sharing, because our downloads keep going up. I don't even know how to put into words how much I appreciate it, because while we don't get paid for doing these things, it gives me a reason to continue to do them, because people actually like them and listen to them. And thank you, because if not, I'd be just doing this shit on my own with nothing to do, and then I'd be a creepy person. So at least I'm not a creepy person, because when people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, researching true crime and serial killers. And they're like, well, why would you do that? Instead of me looking at them being like, because I like to, I get to say, oh, I have a podcast. I have 2 of them, actually. And they're like, oh, that's cool, which is way awesome.
Okay, you basically just admitted that you'd be doing it without the podcast.
I would.
So, weirdo. Okay.
I was. That's what made me start the podcast, because I was like, damn, I'm a little too interested in this shit for me to just keeping this information in my brain. So I needed to tell it to people, and you guys listen, and I appreciate everything about it. So you won't hear us until next year, because this is the last one of this year. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Make sure you're following us. If you're not, click the follow button, share us, do all the things. And cheers to the incoming 2026. Until next year, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.